Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, MTG, and today I will be bringing you guys my picks for the top 5 standard decks going into the Pro Tour. The Pro Tour does start tomorrow, and so we're going to be taking a look at the 5 picks that I would pick for the top 5 decks in standard going into these. These might not end up being the top 5 decks. Of course, these are all just my opinions and speculation going into the event, but nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at them here. So we're going to start off with Solheim Midrange. Solheim Midrange, also blue-black midrange. Some people are cutting the green from it because green really only gives you, for this specific list, it only gives you like Servant of the Conduit, Thrashing Brontodon, Vraska, as well as Carnage Tyrant in the sideboard. So a lot of people are going for more of just the blue-black route recently. I kind of like the Sultai version. I think that the mana fixing is there, that you can run 3 colors. And what I really expect to see players doing with the Solheim midrange deck, the Solheim midrange deck has a lot of decisions to be made and could really reward you if you're a good player. Of course, all of these players on the Pro Tour are good players. Of course, they qualified for the Pro Tour, meaning that they're fantastic players. But what I really expect to see somebody playing this is someone like Reed Duke. Reed Duke is most known for his play in the modern formats with Jund and Abzan, these kind of mid-range, value-y, grindy kind of decks. And that's exactly what this Solheim mid-range deck is trying to do. It has, some very good cards like Champion of Wits, which does require you to make a decision, but of course, since he is a top-level player, or most of these people are top-level players, there are a lot of decisions to be made. And then the Scarab God has kind of, been silenced a little bit. It's been a little bit overshadowed by some of the cool new Dominaria cards like Karn and stuff like that, but the Scarab God is still here. It's still an extremely powerful card, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the Scarab God just coming out of nowhere and ending up doing quite well in this tournament. Of course, you have access to great removal because you're in black, so you have Fatal Push as well as Vraska's Contempt, which are very strong. And then you do get the access to Glintsleeve Siphoner plus Aether Hub. Going turn 1/turn 2 Aether Hub into Glintsleeve Siphoner is an extremely deadly combination. And then what I also like about this deck is that it has cards like Thrashing Brontodon in the main board, which are quite strong against the vehicle kind of decks. So you have the opportunity to hedge against those a little bit. Also, it can destroy an enchantment, so some of the removal in the color white, something like Seal Away, can be gotten rid of thanks to Thrashing Brontodon. And then it also has cards like 3 Kitesail Freebooter in the main, which can be very good against the blue-white control decks, which most people are expecting to be the best deck in the format currently. And in terms of the sideboard, of course, there are 4 copies of Duress because you're in black. Duress being, again, another great card against the blue-white control list, and then Negate being a great card against that list as well. But then basically this deck just has a lot of really good, solid cards if you're looking to play a bunch of good games of Magic, not necessarily just I do this thing, and then if I don't do this thing, I lose. If I do this thing, then I win. This is really a grindy kind of matchup where you're going to try and play some really powerful cards, some good stuff, like even Ravenous Chupacabra in here. Not a lot of people have been talking that much about Chupacabra since it's been printed. It was super hyped up going into it, and then just people kind of stopped talking about it a little bit because they're more excited about the Dominaria cards. But again, Ravenous Chupacabra is here, the Scarab God is here. These are all fantastic cards. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see blue-black midrange or Solheim midrange ending up doing quite well at the Pro Tour. The next deck we're going to take a look at here is Green-Black Constrictor. Green-Black Constrictor I really like because it does have access to Llanowar Elves. Any deck running green with Llanowar Elves is always just fantastic. The opportunity to go something like turn 1 Llanowar Elves into turn 2 Jade Light Ranger, or turn 2 Rishkar, something like that. Even turn 2 Thrashing Brontodon you can see here. But then you also have cards like Winding Constrictor, which really make this work because there are a lot of counters cards in this deck, things like Walking Ballista, for example, or the energy from a Glintsleeve Siphoner, those kind of things. So it's a very cool deck, very strong deck. And again, it has access to black, so we do get the 4 Duress on the side to help against the blue-white control matchup. And then just another, lot of really good cards. Adventurous Impulse, my boy Zuby's preview card. Speaking of Zuby's preview card, we recorded the podcast on Monday, and so coming out tomorrow, Friday, we will be, I will link you guys to the podcast. He had me on as a guest, and I'm very thankful to him for having me on as a guest, so I'll be sure to let you guys know when that is up tomorrow. This was his preview card, and it's seeing some play here in this deck, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And so aside from that is just basically your green-black Constrictor deck. This deck has always been strong ever since Constrictor was printed in Aether Revolt. It's just always been just this really strong deck, and it wouldn't surprise me to see it continue to do great things here at this Pro Tour. The next card we're going to, or the next deck we're going to take a look at, you can see I don't have it pulled up yet, and that is because I do have to get away my little brag here. Two of my friends, these are SCG Standard, Classic, and Baltimore. Two of my friends top-aided this tournament, which is absolutely fantastic. Brandon Dempsey, we call him Ringer, he's a fantastic player, and Joe Fortini, also another fantastic player. They top-aided this event with mono green aggro, and so we'll go ahead and take a look at their list here. And so it's just really cool that I knew people who had such success at a bigger event like the SCG Standard Classic, this one being specifically from Baltimore. What we get here is the classic turn 1 Llanowar Elves into turn 2 Steel Leaf Champion, which is extremely, extremely powerful. We have access to cards like Galta on our top end, which makes it extremely strong. And then basically we're just playing all of the best green cards. Notably in this version of the deck, kind of the innovation that they got from, let me find his name here on the side. It was Nyaoka. He was the one who came up with the sideboard tech in this deck. It features things, because we get some access to black, we're running 4 copies of Blooming Marsh and 4 copies of Woodland Cemetery. This allows us to activate the activated ability on Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is super nice compared to something that just the regular mono green deck might not be able to. I'm not sure if people will adapt to the same kind of sideboard tech that Brandon, or we call him Ringer, so I'm just going to continue to call him Ringer, that Ringer and Fortini did in their decks. But again, you do have access to black cards. And Hour of Glory, a nice way of dealing with cards like the Scarab God, and notably because we are mainly green, we're not, green-black like the Constrictor deck. Hour of Glory is just easier for us to cast compared to something like Vraska's Contempt. And then we also have access to Vraska herself. You can see here Vraska Relic Seeker in the sideboard. Some people at the Pro Tour, because I'm expecting a lot of blue-white control, some people might want to run Duress as well in the sideboard, because black would give you the option to run Duress as well. But again, like I said, I don't know if people will adapt the same sideboard tech where they run black. Some people might just want to go for the mono green approach, which is perfectly fine. Of course, both decks are still just super, super strong, but I do have kind of a bias towards the mono green with a little bit of a splash here for black that my friends played. The next deck that we're going to take a look at here is kind of the boogeyman in the format right now, which is blue-white control. This is the deck that a lot of pro players, I'm assuming, will end up playing. It's just basically considered to be the best deck in the format right now. You get access to Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, which is an extremely, extremely powerful card. And then aside from that, you also get access to cards like Settle the Wreckage, which again is an extremely powerful card, and then some good counter spells like Essence Scatter and like Syncopate and Disallow here. So some very good spells. You also get access to Search for Azcanta, which is a nice way of filtering through your draw step, and then Seal Away, which is again another great removal spell. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a lot of pro players playing the blue-white control decks. A lot of what you'll see is that people who play on the Pro Tour, these higher level players, most of them do prefer to play control decks, and so it wouldn't surprise me if many of them just take what they already know. They already are used to playing these control decks, and so it wouldn't surprise me to see them continue to play these control decks, especially when it's generally considered to be the best deck in the format right now. We do have some sideboard cards here, things like Authority of the Consuls to help us against like the mono red matchup, and then just some other great cards here for History of Benalia in the side as well. That's another great card from Dominaria, and then an additional copy of Gideon of the Trials, which again is a very strong card. So the final deck we are going to take a look at here is Red-Black Aggro. Red-Black Aggro is essentially the newest take on the mono-red deck. We instead are running some additional black for some Unlicensed Disintegration. Because it is an extremely powerful removal spell, it helps us destroy a creature and at the same time deal 3 damage to our opponent. And then we also, because we're splashing black now, we do get the access to 4 copies of Duress. I feel like I'm saying this in basically every single deck that I'm picking, but really you're going to see Duress as an extremely powerful card, especially against the blue-white control matchup, because every single spell here except for, yeah, every single card in the main deck of this list right here, the list that won first place in the SCG Standard Classic in Louisville, every single card in this main deck can be taken by a Duress. In terms of the sideboard, everything in the sideboard can also be taken by a Duress. This list isn't even running like Lyra Dawnbringer or any creatures like that. The only thing that we can't take away with a Duress from this list here is the 27 lands that the deck is running. So again, Duress is going to be an extremely, extremely important, powerful card, especially during the Pro Tour. It wouldn't surprise me to see many people running 4 copies in the sideboard, possibly even some in the main board, just because I'm expecting Blue-White Control to show up quite a bit. We do have access to Goblin Chainwhirler, which is very good against the original mono-red decks, which is why I kind of think most people will stray away from the mono-red decks and will try and go more for this red-black version instead, just because it is a little bit more resilient to opposing Goblin Chainwhirlers, and you do still get to play the powerful cards like Hazaret, Rekindling Phoenix, and Chandra Torch of Defiance. So you still get all the power that you get from the red decks, but you also get a little bit more resilience against the Goblin Chainwhirlers that your opponents might have, and some of the creatures that try to go wide against your mono-red deck. So these are my top 5 picks for decks going into Pro Tour Dominaria. Once again, we'll go through them one more time. Solheim Midrange, again, you could also classify this as blue-black midrange. It wouldn't surprise me if people just decided to cut out on some of the green cards. The next deck being green-black Constrictor, a very, very powerful deck. Next, mono-green Aggro, or mono-green Stompy, whatever you want to call it. Then we're looking at classic blue-white control. Also, I should probably bring up quickly the blue-white flash deck that was originally powerful in the beginning of the format. Most people are just playing the control version now instead of the flash version, just because the control version beats the flash version, and so it would be kind of not the best idea for you to bring a deck that loses to the most powerful deck in the format, especially when you had the option of just adding a few extra cards and turning yourself into the most powerful deck in the format. And then finally, red-black aggro, again, an extremely powerful deck, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see some pro players trying to throw some Goblin Chainwhirlers at their opponents. So this has been the top 5 decks for my opinion, going into Pro Tour Dominaria. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you guys want to let me know down below in the comments what is your pick for the best deck going into Pro Tour Dominaria. Let me know what deck you think is going to win the Pro Tour, and maybe even let me know who you think is going to win the Pro Tour. If you have any specific pro players in mind that you think are going to have a really good tournament, be sure to let me know down below in the comments. If this is your first time seeing a video from me, of course, a subscription would be appreciated. If you guys did enjoy it, I do post daily Magic the Gathering content just like this, and I'm sure that you guys would enjoy some more of those if you enjoyed this. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys here next time for another Magic the Gathering video.